Hey guys, Metal here. Today I wanted to give you my opinions on the Rising Storm 2 Vietnam closed beta. This beta is ending on Monday the 15th. There will be an open one between now and release, and the release is supposed to be in Q2 of 2017, so could be any day pretty much in the next month and a couple weeks. I've been super addicted to this game. I'm really enjoying my time with it. I already have more than 20 hours in the beta. The most standout thing to me about it is the amazing job the developers have done with asymmetrical balance and making both factions feel unique. The US has more support options. They have napalm strikes, artillery barrages, and C-47 gunships, all as ways to suppress and clear out positions. There's also player-piloted Huey, Cobra, and Loach helicopters. The North Vietnamese only have two support options, really, and that is the mortar strikes and the SAM guided missiles. But they also have tunnels. They're able to climb some surfaces that Americans can't, like drainage pipes. Their spawn systems work different, so the North Vietnamese spawn on a tunnel that their squad leader will dig, whereas the Americans will spawn on their squad leader directly. So the North American squad leaders have to be more cautious. They have to stay alive to provide a spawn point for their team, but they can get, in other positions, like right up on an objective and stuff that the North Vietnamese can't really. But the North Vietnamese, with their tunnel, it lets their squad leaders play more aggressively as they normally would, and it also lets them keep coming from a flank or some other direction that the American side won't necessarily be expecting. My only issue in this department is that the NVA weaponry and classes in a lot of cases just feel better than the American ones. I really prefer the M16 over the AK. It has more damage and more ammo in a mag. It does have a little bit more recoil, but that's really not that big of a deal, especially if you're not firing at full auto. And even in full auto, you can rein it in close quarters. You can make it work. The RPD, which is the North Vietnamese light machine gun, has less recoil and a faster fire rate than the M60. And the NVA's RPG class gets a rifle and the RPG in comparison to the American counterpart Grenadier class, which gets an M79 grenade launcher as their primary weapon and then a pistol, which just feels a lot less effective than having a rifle and a rocket launcher. It also feels like the maps favor the NVA a lot of the time. However, there is a seriously steep learning curve to this game, and I'm honestly not sure if the maps are unbalanced or if it has more to do with the large amount of new players who are playing squad leaders and don't stay alive, the people who aren't confident enough to push objectives, the people who aren't deploying smoke and aren't making suppressive fire with their machine guns. It's not at all uncommon right now to be stuck on a team with a commander who doesn't know how to use his support options, or a team full of pilots who don't ever land their transport choppers to unload the units. The NVA side, because they have less support options and they don't have helicopters, is a bit more straightforward for new players, so I think that might have a lot to do with why they're winning a lot more right now. And so we'll just see over time, if as players start to kind of learn how all these things interact, if the American side does have more of an advantage. But like I said, right now it really feels like a lot of the maps are very NVA sided, especially the more close quarters ones that I personally enjoy, like Hue City or Chu Chi, which are my favorite maps really, but it feels like as an American you're just running into a wall of bullets all the time. You don't really have too many options to deal with it. The gunplay and suppression are really great. All the weapons feel awesome to use. Assault rifles kick really well in full auto and they're good and precise in semi. Machine guns have a right amount of kick. They can be easily used for suppressive fire, great for close quarters combat, but they're a little bit more difficult to use at the longer ranges, but not impossible, just a little bit more difficult. They're more for suppression. You can fold stocks on certain weapons to give them different handling characteristics. Shotguns have decent range, although they're outclassed by rifles in most circumstances. SMGs have a high rate of fire and they kick a lot. They don't have that much damage at long range though. There's also interesting choices in the forms of something called weapon variants. So you have like different types of AKs. So you've got like the regular traditional Russian AKM, which has a bayonet that you clip onto it and a more open iron sight, and then there's a Chinese Type 56, which has like an SKS style bayonet where it folds out from the rifle and it has a different style of iron sight. But there's even more interesting variant choices, like for the American machine gunner with the M60, you can choose to either take 3 100-round belts, so you'll have 300 rounds but you'll have to reload, or you can take 1 200-round belt, so you have less total ammo but you won't ever have to reload those 200 rounds. Or even there's the MAP 49, which is the Viet Cong SMG for the Scout class, but it has between two options. So it has the stock option, which is a 600 RPM, or it has the Viet Cong modified option, which is 900 RPM. There's also suppression mechanics, which in realistic shooters I'm a huge fan of. They work fairly well in this game, but this is kind of my first big issue. The effects are fine, but the game applies them really liberally. I can be sitting in good cover and the house next door from me, or even across the street, will start getting lit up by a machine gunner, and suddenly my character will just be shitting himself and unable to operate. It needs to be reined in so that the bullets are landing closer to you when they suppress you. But all in all, like, I'm totally fine with the effects. I think that a character should be concerned if he's getting fired on, and he shouldn't be able to effectively return fire. But it's just a little bit ridiculous right now that, you know, some position that's far off of you can be getting shot and your guy gets super scared. Another awesome feature that I feel like Tripwire and Antimatter have handled perfectly is the character customization. They give players lots of options to make their character appear how they like, while also keeping a consistent theme and aesthetic between armies, so it keeps everything readable and immersive. You can't look like the enemy team, you can always be identified fairly quickly, and you can't look like a carnival freak show clown, which is what a lot of shooters have been letting you do lately, so that's also cool. But you do have a good amount of control over how you look. You can pick different helmets and hats. You can pick different shirts and undershirts and all sorts of stuff. It's a really awesome system, and I really think it adds a lot to the game. I do like being able to personalize my character, although I don't like it when people are just ridiculous looking. This last point is going to sound a little bit nitpicky, but the character voice lines are super inconsistent. Sometimes I love them, they really add to my immersion. I've heard dying teammates call for their mothers before, and that's chilling and really adds intensity to the game. The Vietnam voice lines, or the Vietnamese voice lines, are all in native language, so I don't really understand them, but they do add to my immersion of playing as a North Vietnamese soldier. However, some of the voice lines are just kind of ridiculous, and they'll actually pull me out of the game when I hear them. I once heard a teammate calling out, "Charles is around here somewhere, man." Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. What do you think we're even doing here? The Americans wouldn't be here if Viet Cong wasn't around. I've also heard some one-liners that border on monologuing after shooting someone, like, "That's the last American you'll kill, Charlie." That's a pretty lengthy thing to say in the middle of a battlefield, especially when you're popping ahead at 100 meters. It just doesn't make sense. It seems very predetermined. I'd rather battle chatter be shorter and less refined, something someone might actually say after killing a person or being shot at, rather than something that seems like it's out of a movie script. Sometimes the developers have nailed it, and sometimes it falls hilariously short. Anyway, guys, overall, I really like this game. I think it's awesome. I'm happy to have pre-ordered and participated in these betas, and Tripwire has honestly never made a game that I didn't like. The Killing Floor series has been great, and so has the Red Orchestra now right. If you enjoyed that video, please leave a like. If you want to see more of my tactical shooter content, please subscribe to my channel. If you want to chat or game with myself and or the fans, follow me on Twitch or social media, or even support the channel on Patreon. Please check out the links in the description. Have a great one, everyone.